Only people who want to practice socialism is black folk. We want to be able to look about civil rights and social integration. And so capitalism means owning and controlling those resources. And that's what my poweronomics stuff is about. We're going to learn how to own and control resources and power and wealth to take care of our own people. And I guarantee you, from all my years in running campaigns, every politician would knock down anything to get to your door. You can deliver and become the most powerful people in this country if you started voting as an independent bloc. It said we move as a group. We move as a fist rather than fingers. And we'll stay together, and we'll take care of each other, we'll buy from each other, we'll support each other, and we'll look after each other. And we'll make our dollars bounce in our community on that first floor. We'll make it circulate 8 to 12 times before it leaves black hands. You're powerless. They know the only thing you're going to do, they shoot 20 blacks tomorrow. All thing you're going to do is go out and march. That's all you're going to do. They know that. You have no power and wealth. Why don't black folk say our exceptionality is that we are different from all these groups you're trying to put us into? So how can you let somebody put you in a bag with all these other groups when they don't have the experiences you have and have been treated the way you've been treated? At some point, your exceptionality should be brought up and should be dignified. That you were the first in all these things. You were the first people. You were the first Jews. You're the first human beings on earth. You're different. Exceptionality. And I want you to, and all these marches that you have, I want you to start marching towards exceptionality. And so we're going to get into that. But first, let me say, I don't want to deviate from what is customary that I do whenever I come to one of these occasions. That is to try to give you a status report on black people in America. And let me tell you up front, you are not progressing. I've been telling you that now for 25 to 30 years, even when I was with the Carter administration going around the country. You're not going to progress. You're going backwards. You're going backwards. The only people, blacks in America, are progressing are those who are locked into a vein called entertainers. If you're an entertainer, what you're telling white folk is that you are safe as a birth control pill. There ain't nothing going to happen. You're not going to do anything for black folk. If you're running with a ball, joking, telling jokes, singing, dancing, that's safe. White folk, that doesn't frighten white folk. They'll give you a television show. They'll put you on 10 television shows. They'll make you a host of a television show. They'll let you broadcast every sport event. As long as you don't address any issues dealing with black folk and the problems that black folk have. And so when you all see all these blacks on television, read about them in the newspaper, those blacks have been classified as being 20 times safer than the birth control pill. There ain't nothing going to happen for black folk. And so this morning, I want to let you know that you are not progressing. You're not progressing. And first and foremostly, social integration has failed. Get that through your head. Social integration has failed. As a matter of fact, you lost in social integration. You didn't gain anything. You lost everything you had. Any black person here in this auditorium today that's more than 50 years of age can tell you what you used to have. You have nothing now. You used to have theaters and bus companies, cab companies. You used to have almost everything that whites had. But now you have nothing. Why? Because, see, social integration is a weakening process. It is not designed to empower you. Poweronomics might be, but social integration is not. You cannot integrate anything you cannot empower anything by integrating it. You weaken it. And in social integration in this country, what social integration did was make you a guest. You became a guest in what other people own and control. And any of you know that once your guest has been with you for 2 or 3 days, you want to get rid of them. We are guests. You don't own any hotels. You don't own anything of value in the country. That's why everybody's been pushing social integration. That's why you no longer have communities. You used to have decent communities in every black city in America. I used to be able to go to any city and find a black neighborhood, not a neighborhood, those days, communities. You used to have some of the finest communities in America right here in L.A. You had a Compton, you had a Inglewood, you had a Watts, you had a South Central. You had something. You got nothing now. And all my blacks who were so silly enough, they moved out of the city up into the mountains and said, I'm getting away from all those people. I'm going to go up in the mountain by myself. And you turn over the city to the people you're competing against. Social integration cannot enhance you. Now, anybody in social economics knows this. The Jews found this out way back a long time ago, in the 1500s, in Europe, when Jews tried to socially integrate. And Jews found out very quickly it is a weakening process. They became at risk. No group is going to try to socially integrate that's an out group. And especially if you're an out group, that's a hated group. You are a hated out group. You've always been a hated out group. And then why would you go divide yourself up, splinter yourself, and just scatter yourselves and think that somehow you're progressing? And see, that's why you don't see any other group in this country trying to socially integrate except black folk. You have not seen any integration marches from the Asians. What Asians have been trying to socially integrate? What Arabs have been trying to integrate? What American Indians are coming off the reservations trying to integrate? Nobody wants to integrate but black folk. That is a form of social economic suicide. But we do it. And they've been doing it now for all these years. And back during the 1960s, I told them all, you're going the wrong way. You're going the wrong way. Pushing social integration in this country. I'm saying you're going the wrong way. They said, well, Dr. Elson, you're a radical. I don't mind being a radical. Because, see, radical is just the opposite of superficial. If you're superficial, means you're just dealing with anything minute, non-irrelevant, wheel spinning, non-frictional kind of activities. Radical means you got a problem that's very desperately bad. And you got to do, that's what you call radical surgery. You got to cut something out and stop it. And so when people call me a radical, I say, fine. And so I don't mind being a radical. Just like somebody was telling me, I don't mind being a racist. A racist signifies power, which I'm going to talk about a few minutes ago. People say, you're a racist? I would love to be a racist so I can have some power. But anyway, so social integration just cut us down. And in terms of what it's done to us, your poverty rate hasn't improved. It hasn't improved. Right now, 38% to almost 40% of all the black people in America are beneath the poverty line. Almost 40% of all the blacks in America beneath the poverty line. You got about another 33% that's right on the border of going into the poverty category. If you were to take away their house, a little bit of money, an investment, a little bit of money in a car, they go beneath the poverty line. And then you would have 2/3 of all the blacks in America would be poverty-stricken. Now, black children right now across America, about 35% of all black children are in poverty. The wealth gap is also decreasing. The wealth gap between whites and blacks is decreasing. You're not getting any better. In slavery, you had 1/2 of 1% of the wealth. And we only had 200-some-thousand blacks that were free out of 4.5 million. And here you are 150 years later in the richest country on earth, and you still own 1/2 of 1% after 150 years. And everybody running their mouth about, we're progressive. Watch all these civil rights leaders talk that crap. How we're progressive. Where are you progressive? Show it to me. Show me the progress. You haven't got a pot or a window to throw it out of. And talking about we're progressing. Right now, the unemployment rate has not changed. What you're hearing now in the news about, well, the economy is getting better. They are not talking about black folk. They talk about the economy improving. I don't care whether you got an economic boom or depression or recession. Black folk are outside and underneath the economy. The unemployment rate is not changing. It's staying the same and getting worse. The same thing also happened in terms of things like imprisonment. Your imprisonment, blacks are still going to prison in massive numbers. You came out of slavery. Over 50% of all the black people that were free in 1860 on the eve of the Civil War, in prison, there was somewhere around 50% of all prisoners in the United States, in Atlanta, Savannah, New York, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Buffalo. Over 50% of all the prisoners were blacks. So you're not progressing any place. Now, all this means what to us? It means that black folk don't have the wherewithal to be a competitive people. To be a competitive people, the first thing you must do is have some wealth. You must have some wealth. And you came out of slavery in 1860. You had 1/2 of 1% of the nation's wealth, the richest nation on the earth. You still have 1/2 of 1%. It is wealth power that dictates your opportunities in our society. It is wealth power that teaches you what you can do and what you can't do. Forget about civil rights and social integration. You try going down to the Ritz-Carlton tonight and tell them, I want one of those $1,000 room nights, one of those hotel rooms tonight. Give me a $1,000 room. And I want lobster and everything. Every 20 minutes, the steaks, filet mignons. And they say, how are you going to pay for it? I say, I'm going to pay for it through civil rights and social integration. And they'll probably throw you off the top floor of the building. What decides your opportunity in the society is what you own and control. That's the bottom line of it. And in Detroit, Michigan, using that as an example again, the governor there has already set up in movement a system where he wants to go to the President of the United States, Obama, and ask him for a green card system where he can start importing Chinese from China to make Detroit, Michigan, the biggest Chinatown in the United States. Even though that city had a 90% black population, they're going to bury blacks in Detroit. Arabs own 90%. 90% of all the businesses in the city of Detroit are owned by Arabs. Arabs and 90% black population must go to the Arabs to get what they want in terms of food, medicine, clothing, because they own they own out of the gas stations. You got 146 gas stations in Detroit, Michigan. Arabs now own 144 in a black city. Blacks own 2 gas stations out of 146. You own nothing. The rest, the hotels, are owned, and the 7-Elevens are owned by Indians. Asians are owning the laundries. The laundries. They're owning the hair and wig shops, the nail shops. Blacks own nothing in a 90% black city. And that's why now Detroit went into poverty. They say, yes, Dr. Anderson, we admit in this town that we have an Asian town, a Chinatown, a Pole town, a hockey town, a Cork town, a Mexican town, and a Greek town, but it's racist for you to try to do something for black folk, to build a black town. And guess what the black leadership said? They sure is right. So what I'm saying to you is anything that's happened to black folk in this country can continue to happen, but it is not by accident. You all have to understand today that you're locked into a social construct. That social construct was put in place almost 300 and 400 years ago. You're locked in box. You're locked in box because of the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. It is a white nation for white Europeans and other white people classified as white. And black folk are now going to be a permanent underclass. Not a permanent class, they will be an underclass. You will be classified as 3/5 of a human being. You will be classified as property. You will be classified as property and 3/5 of a human being. You would not be permitted to do things that everybody else could be permitted to do. Black folk don't know this. The people in New York, in Philadelphia, met for a whole week. They closed all the windows and all the doors and put up guards when they drafted the Constitution and said, don't let anybody in. We don't want anybody to hear this. We got to decide how are we going to enslave all these black folk and use them without the public knowing. That was done a week before the Constitutional Convention started in the late 1700s. And what they decided to do, and all of them participated, including Jefferson and Madison and all of them, when they wrote up the Constitution, was this. They said, whenever we talk in those documents about all the people, we are not talking about black folk. When they say we the people, that's white folk. All the people, that's white folk. When you talk about the black, nobody can understand. They developed a code into the construct. The code was those people meant blacks. Those who are abundant, black folk. Those who are indebted, black folk. They're unhappy lot, black folk. And you look at those documents, whenever they use those terms, they were talking about black people. Whenever you use the very specific terms like we the people, all the people, you're talking about white people. And so what I'm going to talk about now is to clear up all the debris and all the garbage, because you all cannot save yourselves unless you get rid of all the garbage off the table, get rid of all the trash. And when they start talking about the American dream did not include you. The American dream was 2 things. It was coming to America, getting free land and free black labor. That was the American dream. 87% of all the money in the country that's generated, that people live off, whites live off in this country, comes from unearned labor. They don't work for it. They push paper around and numbers around and get 87% of the wealth in the nation. Wall Street replaced it the back of a black slave. That's what unearned benefits mean when they start talking about how did you get your wealth and power. 87% of what whites get every year for earnings, they get it from unearned benefits such as stocks in a company, stocks on Wall Street, stock equity in a corporation. They get it from rental income. They get it from tax refund, dividends, all kind of abatements. They get that free. They don't earn it. You won't, unless you understand these things, we can't make it. Now,